Ladies and gents, welcome back. We're seeing our social safety net left in tatters at the moment here in Canada. Well, what's been sold to us as a way of making sure that the least fortunate in our society will not fall through the cracks is, well, now seeing them as a burden and even offering them a way out. We have here from Post Millennial, Canadian Paralympian veteran offered suicide by Trudeau government after asking for an in-home chairlift. Yeah, that's right. And asking for a chairlift offered another way out. Madame, if you're really so desperate, we can give you medical assistance in dying now. Paralympian Christine Gother, I think that's how you say it, sorry, reportedly was told by Veterans Affairs caseworker, disabled and retired Canadian Army corporal and former Paralympian Christine Gaultier testified on Tuesday before Parliament that a caseworker from Veterans Affairs suggested she consider medically assisted suicide, otherwise known as death, instead of waiting for a wheelchair to be given wheelchair lift to be installed in her home. So she was waiting for this thing. It was late to arrive, and they said, "Oh, you can't handle that. Well, we'll just offer you medical assistance in dying." The MAiD program was what they call it. Now, Trudeau responded to this, and in his normal fashion, well, we'll have a look.
I have said repeatedly that this is absolutely unacceptable. And as soon as we heard about this, we took action. We are following up with investigations. We are changing protocols to ensure what should seem obvious to all of us, that it is not the place of Veterans Affairs Canada, who are there to support those people who stepped up to serve their country, to offer them medical assistance in dying as a matter of course.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Here's part of the investigation. This is from CBC News. Veterans Affairs says it has no proof former Paralympian was offered assistance in death. We look down here. Paul Ledwell told the Veterans Affairs Committee that the department has examined over 400,000 individual files as a part of an internal investigation of allegations that Veterans Affairs had been offered or have been pressured into accept assisted deaths. Now, we've investigated ourselves and we found no wrongdoing. I'll let you take with that what you will. Another story from AP News. Disturbing. Experts troubled by Canada's euthanasia laws. And this is a case coming from Toronto, Ontario. Alan Nichols had a history of depression and medical issues, but none were life-threatening. When the 61-year-old Canadian was hospitalized in June 2019 over fears he might be suicidal, he asked his brother to bust him out as soon as possible. Within 1 month, Nichols submitted a request to be euthanized and was killed, despite concerns raised by his family and a nurse practitioner. His application for euthanasia listed only one health condition as the reason for his request to die: hearing loss. It's unbelievable. Nichols' family reported the case to police and health authorities, arguing that he lacked the capacity to understand the process and was not suffering unbearably. Among the requirements for euthanasia, they say that he was not taking needed medication, was using the cochlear implant that helped him hear, and that hospital staffers improperly helped him request euthanasia. Alan was basically put to death, his brother Gary Nichols said. And this is another article here from Forbes saying Canada's new euthanasia laws carry upsetting Nazi-era echoes, expert warns. Canada's extremely liberal euthanasia laws, which next year are set to extend to include people suffering from mental health conditions and potentially minors, have been slammed for being reminiscent of the way the Nazis dealt with people with disabilities by leading academics in the field. The article published by Associated Press last week, Tim Stainton, director of the Canadian Institute for Inclusion and Citizenship at the University of British Columbia said the country's uniquely permissive euthanasia laws were probably the biggest existential threat to disabled people since the Nazis' program in Germany in the 1930s. And then it points to the article that we just read about Mr. Nichols. Now, medically assisted deaths could save us millions in healthcare spending. This is a report from CBC News posted back in January 2017. And well, it's getting disturbing because they were pointing at this back then, and it's led to a push to lots of people taking this. And again, I want to reiterate what I've mentioned before in previous videos talking about this. This has become a slippery slope, as you may call it. Initially, it was designed to offer medical assistance in dying for people who were in a terminal position, a position where they had some sort of terminal disease or condition where they were in agony, in a lot of pain. And it was a way of letting them die with dignity, as they said. And it's become something else entirely. And as we have reported here, CTV News, more than 10,000 Canadians have received a medically assisted death in 2021. That's a lot. That's a lot of individuals. Now, I've seen reports that this hasn't made a budge on the numbers of roughly 4,000 people a year in Canada take their own lives, and that hasn't changed that number. This medical assistance in dying is another number altogether. Now we have disturbing things happening, and this has to do with the College of Physicians and Surgeons in Ontario that was suggesting doctors that the unvaccinated are mentally ill, and this comes around the same time that they're saying that mental illness should be considered as a way to offer people MAiD.
So this has come out recently out of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario. The college sent out a letter or a memo to all the doctors in Ontario suggesting to them, now so far they're not mandating it, they're just suggesting it, that any of their unvaccinated patients, that they should consider that they have a mental problem and that they should be put on psychiatric medication. So far, it's just a suggestion, but the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario should not be making these kinds of suggestions. This is extremely unethical, and this is a very, very slippery slope. If they're suggesting that people who wish to have bodily autonomy and don't want an experimental vaccine, that there may be something mentally wrong with them, that is a very, very dangerous, slippery slope that we're on. So this has come out.
So this is disturbing. It's disturbing things that we're seeing coming out of Canada now, and other countries are starting to pay attention. Other places are looking at what we're doing with our healthcare system. Notably, in British Columbia, we have Bill 36. This is the Health Professions and Occupations Act, which is causing all kinds of ripples to the point where people in America are actually starting to pay attention. What's going on here, especially with the one part that concerns a lot of people, is now they're going to be linking your vaccine status to the licensing as a medical professional. And it's going to change a lot of things. Now, previously, we knew in across Canada, they were tying vaccine status to your job as a medical practitioner, and it didn't affect every practice, but it did affect nurses in a lot of the provinces. British Columbia was still the last one to not bring these nurses and other practitioners back to work. Now it's part of your licensing. You won't be able to get a license unless you comply with this, and we know that you have to renew your license every year. There's a lot of problems with this bill. If you want to see more about that, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Over the weekend, I was on Alison Morrow's channel, and we were discussing this bill. So this is something else that you can watch today. I'll leave, again, a link in the description down below. But let me know what you think about this whole situation with MAiD and how it's stated the stated goal of it was one thing, but now we're seeing it being extended to lots and lots of other places, other people in society. Not only that, we're seeing people actually being encouraged to use it in very, I would say, unethical ways and in very, very inappropriate times. But let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of this, and well, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.